The Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending Project (GESAL), which is a non-banking financial institution established to de-risk agricultural financing and stimulate increased lending to the agricultural sector, designed the Agriculture Stakeholder Convening and Advocacy Platform to help resolve agricultural challenges and provide sustainable solutions. The platform has been developed to facilitate sustainable dialogue among all stakeholders, address the sector's bottlenecks, ensure institutional enforcement of standards and regulations, and affect changes in the incoherent policies and multiplication of efforts impacting the sector's productivity and competitiveness. Inadequate financing is one of the key issues affecting the sector. Despite the improvement in credit to the private sector in the past few months as economic activity picks up, the agricultural sector, in addition to forestry and fishing, continues to receive one of the lowest levels of credit from banks in the country, receiving only 3.5% of credit to the private sector as at April 2022. The same report shows that the services sector received the biggest chunk of credit given out by banks at 33.4%, a significant jump from 29.4% in April last year. Speaking on the fortunes of the sector going forward in his address at the launch of the Agriculture Stakeholder Convening and Advocacy Platform by GESAL in Accra on June 29, 2022, Dr. Owusu Akoto, the Agriculture Minister, once again bemoaned the low level of support for the sector and stated that if banks cannot be convinced to lend more to the agriculture sector, legislation will be used to get them to do so.
Through planting for food and jobs, government, at least on two issues, seed and fertilizer. In the 5 years, the government of Akufo-Addo has had to take away from the taxpayer 2.6 billion Ghana cedis to subsidize seed and fertilizer to our farmers as a way to increase productivity. The farmers have been disappointed. They produce goods worth nearly 50 billion out of the 2.5 billion the government has invested in them. That is our calculation. But then there should be a partnership with the private sector, with the commercial banks, and that is not happening. And you know, because of the lack of responses that we are getting from the commercial banks, I'm preparing a cabinet memo for cabinet to consider legislation for agricultural credit in this country. I know from my work in India myself 20-30 years ago and other Asian countries that this legislation exists, where for every 100 cedis of credit given out by any commercial bank, 20 cedis in the case of India has to be in the agricultural area. So we are preparing this because if persuasion fails, then we have to legislate as a government. That's our responsibility. And we see that as the biggest challenge, standing here as the Minister for Food and Agriculture, as the biggest challenge to the march towards transforming our agriculture. The banks should come on board.
On his part, the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, added that financing alone will not solve the problems within the country's agriculture sector. He called on stakeholders to ensure that there is a more enabling environment to support the sector's growth.
But finance alone will not get the job done. Without the right policies, policy coherence, and an enabling regulatory environment that make agribusiness profitable in Ghana, banks and private investors will continue to be reluctant to put their money in the sector. This is why today we are here to witness the evolution of GESAL from just a risk-sharing guarantee and technical entity to include as part of its activities a facilitating role in bringing together key actors in the sector to work together to create an environment that strongly supports the transformation of the agri sector.